who sort of wants to jump in on that with their thoughts on Law being in S.W.O.R.D, please take the floor.
Shout out to Randy Troy.
Yeah,
The video he made about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would say like go watch that video.
I haven't seen the video.
It was an amazing video.
Randy Troy. That was Randy Troy.
Yes, it was Randy Troy. Thank you. But it was
Shout
like
out Randy Troy.
one of the best. Like, of course, like no offense to anybody in here, but it was a ridiculously good theory. Like it was a 30-minute long video. I watched the whole freaking 30 minutes, which does not.
Yeah, he's kind of like Morge in a way, the way he uses panels, and like he's very like methodical with the way he goes about it.
And I've been saying that Law's a part of S.W.O.R.D for the longest.
I really love that theory because Aegis is basically a Greek shield kind of term.
Right.
Are we sure though that
There's also that scene with like Law and Drake and S.W.O.R.D where they're like, "Yo, Drake," or like, "Hey, Law, like how many people have you
He
killed?"
talks about that too.
Yeah.
We talked about that in their backstories.
Yep.
Yeah. How they're linked. Law, he disappeared for a while. Where did he go? It's a lot. It's a lot.
This sounds hella familiar, doesn't it?
It's okay, man. It's okay.
What?
What? No, somebody got it in the video, so
That's it. Here is a link to the video. Trafalgar Law's secret connection to S.W.O.R.D, evidence, super One Piece theory and analysis. Randy Troy's channel. It's got 1.3K subscribers. Let's get this to 5K tonight. Let's get Randy Troy to 5K.
Yes.
I'm gonna like the video. I'm gonna hit subscribe. Let's get this man to 5K.
This has been a wild week, a wild weekend. I want to thank everybody that was at the Reverie live stream that was talking about my video, in particular the most vocal supporters, which were Ragnar, Brago. You even shouted the video out on your own channel. Sunpatch, Roger's Base, you put the video up on the screen for everybody. Amazing. To Maddie B, hey man, clearly we operate on the same wavelength, because immediately after 956 came out, when they introduced S.W.O.R.D, I put my theory on Reddit and got a lot of positivity from that, so no hard feelings. A lot of new subscribers, you know, like a week ago we were at 500 and something, now we're at 2,000 and something, so that's thanks to all those guys. I'm happy to have all of you here. Quick fun facts about me. I have been with One Piece reading, watching for over 18 years, well before the 4Kids dub. I was one of the original administrators of Arlong Park. I used to update the site when that was a thing. I was part of the QC team for Kaizoku fan subs. Even had a YouTube channel in 2005 when it first started with some One Piece content. Kind of similar to what I did in the intro. Did you like that? I used to put my own voice under the things. Eventually, they took my whole channel down for it. It's taken me 15 years to get over it. But hey, here I am. So now I'm back. Today, I'd like to get into some of the things that we've talked about in the comments of the Law video. So this is sort of like a part 2. I'm going to address the events of 990, which, you know, like, I'm a writer, right? I work in the film industry. I'm a member of the Writers Guild of America. I love to put puzzles together. And 990 was a very spicy, very juicy piece of this whole Law is potentially a marine puzzle. Talked a bit about it in my review. We'll get more into that. A lot of people wanted to know my thoughts on the Perpetual Life operation, which in a whole video about Law, I seem to like sort of gloss over. I talked about it for a little bit, but I didn't really get into my own thoughts about it. So we're going to do that. I'm going to talk about a little more about Garp and his relationship with Kuzan and Sengoku. You know, just a couple other things that I was looking at. We'll put it all together. So, Drake, right? Dude, you are suspicious AF. Come on. You spent 2+ years infiltrating the Beast Pirates. And for what? To just throw it all away for Trafalgar Law? God, you would think that you think they know each other. But if that's not something convincing enough for you, I don't know what will be. Not to the point that Law is a Marine, but to the idea that there's more to Law and Drake than meets the eye. Even if you don't believe that Law is a Marine, That's fine. He could even be a subcontractor of S.W.O.R.D, not actually officially a Marine, but works with them. There's different ways to make this work, but either way, there has to be something tying Drake and Law to each other. That's a huge sacrifice, your entire cover. I mean, rule number one of going undercover is you do everything to protect that cover, even if it means letting your friends be captured or whatever they are to you. So there's a lot going on there. The perpetual life operation, the eternal life operation. What do I think of it? Well, I don't think that it's eternal life. I believe that it's life force. So similar in the way that Big Mom can take years away from someone and even give them back to him, like she did with Pedro. She took 50 years from Pedro. You know, if she's beaten or dies, I imagine all of that life force will go to whoever she's taken him from. But please, Oda, love Pedro, keep him dead.
Savage.
Yeah, keep him dead. Yeah, we haven't forgotten about Pell.
You're never too
We haven't
young
forgotten.
to have a Vietnam flashback.
Nope, we haven't forgotten. It's the only thing that I'm mad at you about. I could criticize some things, but that's the thing. You should have pulled that trigger. Sorry. So I believe that Law. I believe that when Law uses that operation, what he's basically going to be doing is giving whatever is remaining of his life force, whether it's 20 years, 50 years, whatever. That's what he's going to give to somebody, whether they like it or not, Luffy.
Savage.
Okay, now let's talk about Luffy. Life force has been tied to him ever since he started using Gear Second in Enies Lobby. You take a look at the conversation between him and Lucci when he's analyzing the technique. He's like, you're just hacking years of your life away by using this. Just for a little, basically like a steroid. Luffy's like, if it gets the job done, I don't care. Impel down. Magellan poisons him. He goes down to level 5.5. Ivankov stims him with healing hormones that take 10 years away from his life. Then, 2 shots of tension hormones, which we don't know specifically what those year counts are on those. You know, you get stimmed at Marineford and immediately after healing himself, but there has to be a price to those as well. We're looking at 10 to 20 years of Luffy's life already gone, and whatever he's been pulling away from Gear Second. Imagine, speculation territory, a scenario where Big Mom isn't Big Meme anymore, and she becomes an actual threat. Yeah. It's possible. And attacks Luffy, and manages to steal his life force. We would know how much time this man has left, and that would create a scenario similar to Thriller Bark, where, oh god, sun up's coming. We've got a time limit here. They have to beat Big Mom to get Luffy's life force back. Or Law basically saying, you know what, buddy? I believe in you. I believe that you are the person that is going to get revenge for my hometown of Flevens against the world government. So I'm going to use this on you. Luffy will be like, no. Or maybe he'll be unconscious and he can't do anything about it. And Law will just hit him with it. Now, that could also happen during the final war. It doesn't have to necessarily happen with Big Mom, but that's just an idea, a scenario to get people thinking. More than anyone else. Not Garp, not Law. Kuzan is probably the most obvious candidate. When we're introduced to Kuzan after the debut back fight, Oda kind of goes out of his way at the start to show us and teach us that Aokiji at his core is a good man by saving Tanjin. And Luffy even has this moment where he's like trying to decipher who's actually good and bad in that situation. He's like, oh wait, well we're the pirates, so we're bad, right? Everything is so muddied, and It's one of the most rich and substantial elements of this entire series. Aokiji shows us this side of himself again at the end of Eni's lobby when he has his conversation with Robin. It's almost as if Aokiji stops pursuing Robin simply because she's aligned with the Straw Hats now. He's basically saying, I wanted you dead because I didn't want the ancient weapons or the history of the world to fall into the wrong hands. But if you're planting your feet here and sticking with them, then I'll allow it. Following the Eni's lobby incident, much like when Law saw Luffy punch Charlos, Kuzan's been shown something interesting. And instead of capturing the very woman that can decipher the ancient text capable of crippling the world government, he lets her go. That's pretty suspicious too, man. Are you trying to undermine the world government? Are you? But what's his motivation? In my opinion, it's Jaguar D. Saul, his good buddy. He mentions that they're friends, and the world government ordered him to kill Saul. That was not something that weighed very light on his conscience. And talking about that flashback, further evidence for me to just rule out Sakazuki completely is when he just blows up that ship of civilians. And they're still looking at that one cover page like, he's got a sword tattoo. He has to be S.W.O.R.D. Oda likes to flip things on its head, but he has explicitly stated that Sakazuki's justice is absolute justice. Akainu would, much like Javert in Les Miserables, jump off the red line before aligning with pirates. If your justice is absolute, that means unwavering. You're not changing for anything. He's not a part of S.W.O.R.D. He is the complete antithesis to everything that I believe Drake and especially Kobe stand for. Aokiji was so distraught that, almost in a matter of acting out, he lets this girl leave the island because he didn't want to see any more death. That's one interpretation. Much like Drake, he's infiltrated an Emperor's crew. But there is something that has always tied Aokiji to Garp. When we first meet Aokiji, one of his first things that he says to Luffy is, you remind me of your grandfather. Now, that was the first time that we had learned that Luffy had a grandfather. We learned it from Aokiji. He gave us that information. Now, we had already seen Garp in the cover stories with Kobe and Helmeppo, but we still didn't know the actual connection between Garp and Luffy. I drew parallels between Garp and Dragon in the video, being the figureheads of two factions that are opposing the world government. What I failed to mention was that you have the other member of the monkey family, Luffy, who also, through his actions, is opposing the world government as a pirate. So, just an interesting parallel there. So, Garp has been playing a role since we met him. In the Post-Eni's Lobby arc, when we are actually officially introduced to him, and he, meets up with Luffy, he says, hey, heard you talked with your dad.
What's your dad like?
Which implies that either he's having, semi-regular father-son talks, or he just read the report from Logtown that Smoker would have written, saying that Dragon was in Logtown and he saved the pirate Monkey D. Luffy for some weird reason. Hey son, how's it going taking down the world government? Pretty good. How about you? He says he's not going to arrest Luffy, but once he gets a order from headquarters to do so, he flip-flops and says, oh, well, I guess I gotta play the game now. Alright, Luffy, I'm taking you out. Yep, I'm taking you out, Luffy. Taking you out. Come on, get away. And Aokiji is on the ship, further tying them together and accentuating their relationship. And he just lets Garp do what he's doing. Thousand Sunny gets away, and this man smiles. He never wanted to catch them. He was always playing that role. I could see a universe where Garp is like grooming Kuzan to take over for him with S.W.O.R.D. Especially after the war. People in the comments were trying to sway me on the idea of Sengoku being in S.W.O.R.D. Now, of course, it seems pretty obvious when you look at Sengoku and you look at Corazon. I even mentioned that in the original video. The one thing that kind of tripped the whole idea up for me was the conversation between Law and Sengoku in Dressrosa. And the original video, I gave an explanation of why I think that it still works, but what if the members of S.W.O.R.D don't really know each other? Because then suddenly certain elements and scenes start to make sense. If it's so secretive that, you may know who's at the top, but you don't know who else is involved because you don't want to blow someone else's cover, then yeah, I could probably get around Sengoku being involved. If you take at other scenes between Sengoku and Garp in the series, there is precedence for an idea that they're working together or that they know something. When you take the scene in Marineford after Garp is running after Sakazuki because he just killed Ace, Sengoku appears out of nowhere and throws his head down into the ground. He's like, "You fool." But his face is saying so much more with that. Like there's almost... I'm reading into this a lot, but there's like a fear there. It's almost as if he's saying, and there's two ways to interpret this, you are going to ruin everything that we've been working toward. Or, stop. I know what you're up to. And if you do this, you're not going to be able to finish what you started. Yes, I know what you're doing, and I'm allowing it. There's a precedence that Garp tried to keep Sengoku out of it, but he found out, or Sengoku wasn't a part of S.W.O.R.D pre-time skip, but is post-time skip. Garp never wanted Ace to die. You can see the remorse that he has all throughout Marineford. The role that he's playing just wearing on him. And when it's all said and done, he immediately resigns. We see that scene with Kong and Sengoku. It's interesting when you look at that scene with Dedan when, she's just really letting Garp have it. And he's saying nothing. In my mind, he's saying a lot. In my mind, he's saying, I wish I could tell you. I wish you could understand that I didn't want Ace to die, but everything that I'm working towards is unfortunately bigger than him. That I'm trying to take down the whole government, because this government is oppressing the entire world and has been for over 800 years. Later in the scene, when the mayor arrives, Garp finally says something of note. He's asked the question, "Where's Luffy?" To which Garp responds that he fled away in a submarine. No remains were found. The boy lives yet. Now, the interesting thing here, other than indirectly mentioning Law by way of his submarine, Garp seems fairly positive that Luffy is still alive. Could it be that he has inside information on that? Maybe. After Kobe performs his declaration to Akainu, we see a bunch of reactions from prominent members in the war. Interestingly enough, and nearly out of place, is a front and center reaction from Trafalgar Law, Kobe's future Rocky Port incident buddy, looking especially concerned. But ultimately, I don't see Law ever portraying Luffy in the way that we would think of a betrayal. I could see a situation, speculation, where Law betrays Luffy, but that's only the way that it's presented to us. So as the reader, we believe and perceive that Law is betraying Luffy. Even if he arrested him or anything like that, he would take the cuffs off at a pivotal moment. Something like that. We're going to get into the final war in the next couple of years, and I believe that, we're going to have the Straw Hats, the Grand Fleet, the Revolutionary Army, and S.W.O.R.D all on the same side against the world government, which will be spearheaded by Akainu on the opposite side, because absolute justice is unwavering. That does it for me, guys. Again, I want to thank everybody that's been subscribing, commenting, liking, sharing. It's amazing. To the people that feel that I robbed them of the greatest twist in manga history, I'm sorry. My deepest apologies. Uh, but the clues are there, right? Draw your own conclusions. Stay tuned. I have a video coming out about the live-action One Piece adaptation. I have to tweak some things, maybe reshoot it after Matt Owens showed up at the Reverie, which, by the way, guys, how legendary was that, right? I loved it. It was amazing. But my video is going to be from the perspective of someone who works in the film industry. So, I'm going to break down pre-production, production, and post-production, give an accurate timeline. How long does it take to actually shoot an episode of a TV show? What to expect when you're dealing with visual effects. I'll probably throw some casting ideas in there as well. So you can look forward to that. And thanks again, everybody. Thank you a million times.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.